I think there are a number of ways of being successful. I think, I think you just have to have a willingness, a frame of mind that you could be successful. You have to show a certain amount of initiative. You can't sit back and wait for things to happen. You really have to take an initiative. So we're looking at that. We're looking at someone, certainly certain skills, critical thinking skills, being able to communicate effectively, being able to present themselves effectively.
Welcome to Be a Baller Podcast, where we're building a lifelong legacy for families, communities, and the world. I'm your host, Coach Tim Brown, and I'm excited today to introduce my guest, John Parms, who's founder and owner and managing officer of Parms Company, who recently celebrated 40 years in business. John is a certified public accountant and a mentor to young up-and-coming accountants and business owners. Today on the show, John will share his journey to building a lifelong legacy in business. John, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Yeah, first of all, now the tie's off, so you got to loosen up now. I know you're the accountant, but I got to get that smile. I got to get that out of you. Sure. First of all, congratulations. You just recently celebrated 40 years of company. Can you talk about reaching that milestone in business?
Boy, yeah. I didn't really look at it as a milestone. We have a young lady who's our firm administrator, Linda Spencer. She was the one who really said, we need to celebrate 40 years. Yeah. I'm not a big person for celebrations necessarily. But it's interesting. One question she asked me is, well, how did you do that? How did you stay in business that long? And I said, by the grace of God, because really, you really don't achieve, I don't believe anyway, that you achieve anything of any, length of time unless you are grounded and have some blessings, right? Yes. You have to have a certain amount of grace, I believe. And so I had a mom who used to pray for me all the time. Right. A father who didn't do that, but he provided a foundation for our family. So I really have to just look at all the things that occurred throughout my life, and so it's really just a number of things that were blessings to me that allowed me to be able to stand that long. And so yes, I can't claim all of that. It's a village, it's a journey that a lot of people supported me during that time.
Awesome. I know you grew up in Akron, Ohio.
Correct.
And you were the youngest of 8 children.
Correct.
Yeah. Can you talk about your family? And you kind of alluded to that. What were some of those valuable lessons you learned from the Parms family, especially being the youngest and being a boy?
Yeah. It's interesting. 4 girls, 4 boys. And, I had my sisters kind of was a not a substitute, but an additional guidance, and my older brothers as well. They were, role models. So my oldest brother was an attorney, and he was well known in the Akron community. My dad was a businessman for many years. He also worked at Firestone. And a lot of his brothers worked in the rubber industry, but he had the, I won't say the foresight, but certainly the desire to be in business. At one point, I think he had a shoe shine shop. He shined shoes, and then from there he started a business. And so being the youngest of 8, I think I had an advantage because I had a lot of models that I could learn from. And of course, my parents were excellent parents. They, instilled in us principles, I think, that were helpful. You don't realize that growing up, right? But as you look back, you can see, they were always there and guided us. And so all those things were very helpful. So, all my brothers and sisters were able to, I think, provide some guidance to me, right? And so I just had a chance to benefit from all of that.
Nice, good. Speaking of that, you talked about your mother praying for you. Can you talk about your personal faith foundation? And I know even today, I know you're a member of Second Baptist Church. Sure, Can you talk about your faith foundation?
Yeah, well, I think you have to have a foundation and something that's meaningful. And certainly God can't be more meaningful than that. And so, And so I get that from my mom. She took us all to church when we were growing up, Second Baptist Church in Akron,
Okay.
Ohio.
Wow.
And so certainly having that foundation and understanding God's principles and what he teaches and what he has stored for us, I think is always helpful. Even because life can be very difficult sometimes, and you could go astray, and you things are difficult. And so if you don't have that foundation, I think it helps, right? It allows you to understand there's something bigger than yourself, and that there principles that God lays out. I think I've tried to use in the business that I had, in the business that I run, and I think that serves me well.
Speaking of that, can you expound on some of those principles that you use?
Well, certainly. I think I think there are a number of important principles. One is, you have an obligation to do the right thing. You could take shortcuts, but that never, I thought, had a long lasting benefit. So, just being fair to one another, being fair to your employees, being fair to your customers, I think is understanding that you have to have strong principles and understanding that you get what you put in. So I always felt that if we couldn't be credible, if we couldn't be honorable, if we didn't have integrity, that it's not going to allow you to stay in business long. It's not going to serve you well. So certainly, I think hard work, faith, believing that you can do it, even though obstacles seem to be kind of difficult. And so I think those are some principles. I guess I could think some other ones, but right now those come to mind.
Those are solid. Those are solid. Those are tried and true.
Yes.
Those are tried and true. Working in a family business, I know you worked in there after school and doing some summer breaks or whatnot. Can you talk about how that experience helped you and when you got to open your own business?
Yeah, I think it's sometimes it's hard to when you're at that moment to really understand what's going on, right? But certainly just being in the environment with my dad and one of my older brothers who ran the business for a long time, there are principles, there are things that you learn that may not necessarily be, you're sitting down and someone says, you do this and that, but you really gain an understanding by just looking, watching, I think. And so just understanding, what it took to be in business, how you need to reinvest in your business, reinvest in yourself, understanding that your customers are assets and are very valuable, and you want to maintain those relationships. And again, just doing right by your customers, I think is very important. And then having a plan, understanding that you just can't go into business willy-nilly. You really have to have well thought out plans. And you have to have support systems and mechanisms that help you in areas that you can't do yourself. So you need to have professionals who can guide you. So advice is very important. So those are some of the things I learned at a very young age, working in the cleaning business on the summers and after school.
Right. How was that wage for you?
I'm sorry?
How was that wage for you? You make it $10 an hour?
I don't really remember how much I made. That's not something I think that I really said, really view. One of the things I can say is that growing up, I always had money.
Okay.
I always had a way of earning money where my friends may not have.
Right.
I always had very clean clothes. Right. I was always well presented, well pressed. So those things were benefits that I think helped me when I was growing up. Yeah, those are benefits I got from that.
Just think about being in high school. Were you involved in a lot of business classes? And I know you went on to be a CPA. Did you always love math?
Did I always love math? No, not necessarily. I mean, I think, I had certain aptitudes. critical thinking was an important aptitude. I really wanted to be an architect when I went from high school to college, but found out that I didn't really have all of the aptitudes necessary to be that. But I did see that I could be in a profession like accounting, and I understood how that worked relating to business. So, but I don't necessarily think I was very good at any particular subject. I was an average student, but I just worked hard when I needed to, and I think that's how I overcame. Mm-hmm.
What was your inspiration and vision to start your own business? Parms, what was the vision behind that?
I couldn't find a job. That's interesting, isn't it? I lived in Cleveland. I got married and I moved to Columbus. So I had passed the exam. And I was a CPA.
Okay.
But I found it very difficult to find employment here. This is back in the middle 70s, right? And so I had a couple of good friends I had met in Cleveland when I worked for a CPA firm, an African-American firm, Watson and Rice. And there's a great history with them. They've brought along a lot of, I think, CPAs during a certain point in time. But I had two friends who they were in transition as well.
Okay.
We got together and said, let's start a firm.
Wow.
And so a lot of times people don't understand the best time to start a business is when you don't have another opportunity, right? You have much less at risk.
Right.
I didn't have kids. I was married, but I didn't have any other obligations that prevented me from taking that leap.
Right.
I didn't have a lot. I didn't view myself as having a lot at risk. So that's how I did it. Now, I start out in when I graduated from college, I was going to start a business. No, I didn't. I just realized that I had a good skill. Accounting was the knowledge of business, and so I understood the background of that. And so the opportunity presented itself, and that's what happened.
No, that sounds good. That's a good story. Didn't have a job, so I could create one.
Couldn't find a job. Yeah,
find a job. Speaking of that, what words of advice and encouragement would you give to young entrepreneurs?
Yeah, it's you really have to be prepared. I think business is not. It can be a rewarding undertaking, but it's also very challenging. It can be very challenging, and you really need to have a base of knowledge. You need to understand, have an appreciation for the things that are going to make your journey difficult. You need to have good advisors, but you also have to have a plan. I think you have to do your homework and understanding. What are the opportunities, but also what are the challenges in starting a business? And there are many. But I think, America, I think, is unique in that it provides a number of important systems that help business owners be successful. And probably more now than when I first started my business many, many years ago. But there are a number of support mechanisms that I think you need to, as a business owner, you need to know what they may be, what they are in terms of providing assistance, in terms of information, in terms of capital, in terms of legal advice, and so you have to make your those opportunities. Those tools and benefits available to yourself because they're going to be needed. I mean. It's very difficult running a business. You have to know a lot, and you have to be committed. And so, yes, I would say those are the things that commitment, knowledge, understanding, the ability to listen, to seek advice. So some of those I think are very, very important.
Those are great words. I heard you mention the word plan a few times in our conversation. We have a concept I work with young guys or students, period, we call it the MVP. And MVP is for my vision plan, not for most valuable player. It's for my vision plan.
Right.
And the key in that, we tell them, we go through all this, but the bottom line is you got to have a plan. You got a plan. You got to be willing to committed to the plan, work the plan, seek out advice, people that can help you with, but it's your plan. It's your plan, but you got to, and once you have that plan and have that ownership, it can happen for you. It can happen for you. The longevity of Parms Company, there's a slogan that you use. It's called Beyond the Bottom Line.
Mm-hmm.
Beyond
It's
the
the
bottom
tagline.
line. That's your tagline.
Right.
I read that. What does that mean, beyond the bottom line?
Well, first of all, it sounds real good.
Well, it sounded good now. That's why I wrote it down.
Yeah. But, it really means that, we want to go the extra mile, that, to do more than just, what's expected. And I think that's what it means, is that we're committed to your success. And we go, beyond just what you might think, or we might think is necessary, whatever it takes to help you be successful. So, beyond. We used to have a tagline, doing what works. And someone bought that from us. They thought that was such a great tagline many years ago. And so, it's looking at what we're trying to project in terms of our image and what we're trying to do for our clients and our employees as well.
No, it works. It works. I think that adds to longevity of your company, because you're looking at beyond the bottom line. And you go anywhere and the bottom line will grow. That's what accountants do. That's why they help you grow the bottom line. But there's something beyond the bottom line. So speaking of, what value are you adding to that company besides the bottom line?
Well, certainly, I think, our commitment to their success, our expertise, our experience that we bring to the relationship. I mean, we've been doing this for a little bit of time. We've been committed to our clients, and we're committed to building our knowledge base so that we can help our clients. So yeah, it's just having understanding that things don't just happen. You have to apply a number of things to make it work in terms of commitment, expertise, knowledge. And so, that's what I think I can provide in that regard.
You are in a season of time and in your business where you're kind of that company you mentioned in Cleveland. You're that one now who's mentoring that next generation. A lot of people started with you and now doing some big things. But as you're in that season of mentoring and sponsoring the next generation, can you talk about your relationship with my alma mater, Ohio University School of Business, and the things that you've done? I know you have two graduates there working for you now. Can you talk about that commitment?
Yeah, I can't claim that. Our firm administrator, Linda Spencer, and one of our audit manager, Naomi Robinson, made that happen. They were looking for a relationship with a school to help as a feeder for potential employees. One of the challenges that our profession is dealing with right now is a shortage of talent. And so, you have to be more creative in finding available talent. And one of the things that that Linda and Naomi sought, that OU could be a resource, connector in helping us identify potential employees, students that we could start relationship with early on in their development, which increases our ability to retain them. So that was the impetus behind that and the reason for that. But we're just starting that out. I think our first activity will be the first quarter of next year. But certainly, I wasn't the brainchild behind that. Someone else in our firm started that, understanding that we had a couple of staff members who were alumnus of OU, and so that's why that happened.
When you're interviewing or you're looking for talent, as you mentioned, what kind of skills are you looking for in young, besides just having a degree? What are some of the other skill set that young people need to have to be successful, not just in your profession, but in any profession?
General, I don't know. I mean, I think there are a number of ways of being successful. I think, I think you just have to have a willingness, a frame of mind that you could be successful. You have to show a certain amount of initiative. You can't sit back and wait for things to happen. You really have to take an initiative. So we're looking at that. We're looking at someone, certainly certain skills, critical thinking skills, being able to communicate effectively, being able to present themselves effectively, some of those intangibles. But, it really, I don't know if I can say in every case what drives us to hire someone versus someone else. I just think it's their presence, their confidence, their commitment, their preparation.
Yes.
You have to come to the game with skills and preparation. And so that's what we're looking at. We're also looking at someone who has a certain level of work ethic. It'd be great if we all can lay around and make things happen, but that doesn't happen. It doesn't work that way. You really have to take the initiative and do the work necessary to be successful. So those are some of the ingredients we look for in terms of our talent that we look for.
Right. Well, you dropped some gems there, just life things, and those are things that you learn. I really believe you learn those early. You really
think so
it is ingrained in you. You saw that with with your dad, and you saw that with your brothers and your sisters. You saw that, that work ethic, that commitment. That
it helps.
Confidence.
If you have someone who shows you a vision, it's easier to understand, right? If you don't have, I think that was one of the things that was very helpful to me. Is I had role models. I had someone I could see because I saw things in them, and they provided insight in how you could be successful. So it gives you a confidence and understanding and a confidence to make it work. So very important. Yeah.
And it's like now you are that person, now you're in that seat. You're in that seat. Jordan Miller was on the show from Fifth Third Bank, Adolfo Bank. And Jordan said this. Right. He said, all guys, young people need a mentor, but they also need a sponsor. And what he meant by that, he broke it down. They need somebody in the room, pounding the table for them. Hey, get them an opportunity, get them a chance. And that's what I see you doing with these young people at OU. Sure. Just giving them an opportunity because you're in the room.
Right.
Being that sponsor.
Well, then that's just paying forward, right? Yes. Someone gave me an opportunity many times. And, I can just think back of supporters that we had, there was a doubt whether or not we should get an engagement, for example. And someone was there to say, yep. I've worked with this firm. Yes. You can rely on them, and I recommend them. So that's always very, very important.
Yes, it's important. As we come around the corner, this is a legacy podcast. When you think about that word legacy, what does that word mean to you?
Well, it means continuation. You're going to support others or provide opportunities so others can grow from that, benefit from that, right? And so I think that's one of the things that our firm is trying to do is understanding, you don't see a lot of Black CPAs or accountants. And so, if we can provide, this is what we're trying to do right now with some of our young talent, is to provide an opportunity for them. They don't have to start from scratch. They could benefit from our knowledge, our experience, our position. And so that's really helping others who may not have that opportunity, right? And so it's really building for the future, allowing them to benefit from the knowledge and hard work of someone coming before them. Right, so they don't have to start from scratch, and they, that's one of the things we talked about. What's needed to be successful in business, and exposure and knowledge is one of the key things, right? And so mentoring and supporting and building knowledge base and understanding, I think, is really what we're trying to do in continuing the legacy of our firm, and the legacy that we built on, right? Yes. We all start from someplace. And so if you can benefit from that, if you can piggyback on that, it helps. It helps your ability to be successful in the future. Others, rather.
People have described you as, when they say John Parms, they describe you as being humble, well-respected, committed, Christian man, family man. Those are qualities that people have described you. How would you describe John Parms?
That's not fair.
No.
I don't know. I mean, it's hard. I try to be realistic, but I mean, being humble. I mean, I don't think that I'm all that big of a person, right? Yeah. It's just my position and understanding that, there are a lot of people who are doing a lot of great things, and, but certainly, I don't know. I think I've been intentionally tried to stand for something, right?
Yes,
to be principled, right? And so, be hardworking, committed, be honest. I mean, I think I'm not too flashy. I try not to be the center of attention, but I want to be effective, right? Yes. And so I think you can do that without being very grandiose. But you have to, you have to be, you have to have the ability and commitment, the preparation, the knowledge to take advantage of opportunities. I think I'm that kind of a person. Yes. I've tried to be that kind of person. Let me say it that way. It's someone who can get things done, who's effective, but not humble, I guess is a good word. Yeah.
I think you did a good job. You did a good job with that one, describing yourself.
Very good.
On the spot. Yeah, that was pretty good. That was pretty good.
Thank you.
And that's what person I've said about you, and that's who you are. You are who you are. And now people are, what you see is what you get.
Many times,
is what you get. And you know what you're getting. When you come to Parms, you know what you're getting. You're getting that commitment. You're getting that beyond the bottom line. You're getting that professional. You're getting that. The other thing about your company is you're getting that professionalism. That it's going to be professionally done. It's going to be done the right way. We're not cutting any corners. And I know that for my son working for you, how rigid it is. How focused and how serious that you are. And the other thing, I think you've set a standard. That you set a standard. You set a standard. So, and that's important in today's world.
Sure.
And principle. You mentioned that word principle. We need men that have some principles, some values. We're going to stick to it. We're not going to sway with, well, this is the way everybody else is going. No, there's certain things, and those are based on the Bible. Those are biblical principles that we're going to follow, that you've been following. So I want to thank you for that.
Sure.
Well, that's all the time we have for today's episode of Be a Baller podcast. I want to thank our special guest, John Parms, for sharing his wisdom and experience in building a successful business with us. Thank you, John, for your model of excellence in business and inspiring the next generation to chase their dreams. Hope you enjoyed the conversation as much as I did. Remember, building a lifelong legacy is not just about what we achieve in life, but also how we use our gifts and talents to make a positive impact on the world around us. And don't forget to subscribe to our podcast, as you can stay up to date with all our latest episodes. Our podcast guests are always willing to share wisdom and inspire others to build a legacy that lasts. Thanks, John.
Tim, thank you for the opportunity to talk to you.
If you enjoyed this episode, please share it with family and friends. The Be a Baller podcast is available on all major podcast platforms. This podcast is created by Coach Tim Brown and recorded and edited by the video production class at Boarding Christian High School. Be sure to come back next week as we continue to discuss on how to build a lifelong legacy. Until then, don't forget to be a baller.